Hey, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the realities of aging, whether you're dealing with someone professionally or personally. I got some tips that I think might make it a little easier for you to understand what makes them tick, me being one of them. So let's get started. For those of us who have the good fortune to reach old age, it doesn't come without a host of unexpected and unavoidable consequences. The physical limitations are obvious, but many of those can be thwarted or at least delayed with a bit of intentional effort on maintaining health and fitness. It's the mental and emotional changes that caught me off guard. For decades, I worked with the senior population in estate and retirement planning. I took courses to learn the characteristics commonly observed in elderly people. I understood them, at least enough for me to handle their impact on the work I did for older clients. But I never understood why the arrival of these traits is so inevitable. I first expected that retirement from a long life of working was the major culprit for why so many people late in life follow a similar behavioral path. But I'm still actively working, and I had clients with spouses who never faced a career that suddenly ended. While I am sure the major disruption in routine, which lasted for decades, contributes to the aging patterns, there must be other contributing factors. Throughout human history, the handling of the aged has been managed quite differently. For most cultures, elders are revered and considered a valuable resource to teach and guide the young. When their functional capacity is diminished, they're cared for by a family or others in the clan. These traditions continue in many places, but the trend worldwide is changing. When the average life expectancy was in the 50s and 60s, few people lived long enough after their retirement for this to become an issue. The entire concept of pensions and Social Security was founded on the premise that most recipients would only live a few years after starting to receive benefits. Now, with people routinely living into their 80s, 90s, and beyond, most seniors have decades of life after retirement. Not only did this extended longevity lead to the demise of most pension plans, but it also made the burden about what to do with aging parents an inevitable part of life. Since the Industrial Revolution created a shift in our society from self sufficiency to employed workers, young adults have migrated away from family and home in search of jobs. This results in adult children often living far from their aging parents and grandparents. Logistically, it's impossible for them to offer direct care of family elders, whether they were inclined to do so or not. The alternative is to hire help or put mom or dad in a home. For busy families, the needs of their parents become a functional and an ethical dilemma. It's much easier to send money for paid services than to alter their life to take care of aging parents. With established careers and homes in distant places, it's too disruptive to make the changes necessary to go in person. From the perspective of the seniors, whose family is seen to abandon them, this adds an additional layer of complexity to their already declining sense of worth. They may understand the reasons for their family's inability to be personally present, but that knowledge does not lessen the feeling of rejection. They remember all the sacrifices they made as parents for the benefit of their children. Now that the roles are reversed, they're not receiving the same consideration, and that is a difficult reality to accept. Most of our adult lives, the treadmill we hated so much gave us structure. For decades, our jobs require us to conform to a schedule that consumes half of our waking hours, and we divide what's left of our time between family and personal pursuits. We relentlessly adhere to this schedule to support our lifestyle, manage debt, and ironically, save for retirement. We could not afford to let up, so we yielded to this system that has controlled people in this manner for centuries. Like Red suggested in Shawshank Redemption, we become institutionalized. We forget how to self determine in the process of pursuing our dreams. Imagine waking up the day after more than 40 years of such conditioning and no one compels you to do anything. The freedom to decide feels more like a vacuum. So, to keep a familiar part of life in place, new routines are established. They lack the necessity of our previous ones, so we imply importance beyond reason, because that familiarity helps us feel more comfortable. An elderly person can adopt patterns that resemble compulsive behavior. They might become defensive of these habits and show impatience with anything that disrupts their ability to stay on this self imposed schedule. To the casual observer, this behavior seems trite, but to the individual, it might be the only thing that helps them find meaning as they make this difficult life transition. Accompanying this loss of routine is a change in their sense of worth. For years, the needs of our family and planning for our eventual retirement seemed paramount. So we focused all our energy on becoming a good provider and a successful worker. People depended on us, and we had no problem attaching value to our personal sacrifices. We could measure our success, and we received personal satisfaction from our accomplishments. It's the reward that allows us to maintain such a rigorous routine for so much of our adult lives. There was never a question about rolling out of bed with purpose or need. Even if we become frustrated, we found the strength to muscle through and stay the course. Some retired individuals, in their search to replace such structure, use volunteer opportunities to fill their time, and they commit to these organizations out of their need to restore a sense of purpose. They can become very obsessed, treating these duties with the same rigor as their careers. One of the most impactful changes that's thrust on older people is the shift in their relationships. As our offspring mature, our parenting roles evolve. We offer care, nurture, and protection for our young children, guidance and management of adolescence, and we become life coaches when our kids are young adults as they begin their own parental experiences. Eventually, our children reach a place where they are completely self sufficient and we become parents in title only. Perhaps if there is a strong relationship with grandchildren and if proximity allows, we can continue to exercise a portion of our previous role. But in most cases, grandparents are glorified babysitters. And as our children start to observe any decline in our behavior, they become less confident in our ability to care for their young. For older couples, one of them may incur major health issues, and it is inevitable that one will face the loss of their partner. Many health conditions involve a permanent reduction of function, and managing a slow decline to death becomes a way of life. Friends and same age family members are starting to die off. As the surviving individuals deal with grief, they must accept that one day they will be the ones leading survivors to cope with loss and the accompanying changes to their life. This leads them to wonder about the impressions that they will leave behind. Eventually, every older person wonders how they will be remembered. Since most of their life is behind them, the focus shifts on how that story will be told once they're gone. They hope the good things are what will survive them, but to find out, they might ask oddly probing questions. While some family members perceive this as insecurity about the present, it actually represents a concern for how the past will be remembered in the future. Seniors will attempt to mend broken relationships and right past wrongs. They often spin perceived negatives about their life, adding color and exaggeration. Others turn to a religious path to change the portrayal of their past by the sanitized direction of their present. Those who have an established estate plan often make major changes late in life to reshape their legacy. They might modify their request to reward or punish individuals based on how they were treated in these final years. Some will divert assets to charitable causes for the long term recognition such donations can provide. Using their wealth as a tool, these actions are a final attempt to control the narrative of their life for as long after death as possible. Even before an older person begins to contemplate their death, they must face the fact that the future is no longer bright. At some point, they realize that today is the best it's going to be, and soon it will start to go downhill. The inevitabilities of aging will ultimately trump any plans they have or hope to have for the future. Facing one's mortality is filled with emotional responses. Dying is the easy part, and it puts an end to the more terrifying aspects of getting old. It's the loss of function that frightens most seniors. It's not that an elderly person wants to die, it's that they don't want to live where they are diminished in such a humiliating way. After a life of self determination over every aspect of their existence, they see the possibility that for the remainder of their days, they become an adult baby, depending on others for everything as they lay in a bed, incoherent, and in diapers. As an older family member becomes less relevant to their children and grandchildren, they start to feel isolated. Family is their last connection to a world that has literally left them behind. The interests and activities of their family are strange and unfamiliar, and this modern view of the world seems foreign. This divide makes simple conversation difficult, so the younger members find it frustrating and may stop trying to have meaningful connection with their elders. Rather than feel embarrassed and disassociated, the elderly will withdraw into solitude to find a comfortable place of familiarity. This action can hasten their cognitive decline as they lose connection to the people who used to give their life meaning. With little left to stimulate their thinking, the chasm widens between the world they remember and the one where their family lives. Seeing little connection to the people who matter most, they turn their attention to their own fate, which only worsens their depressive state. Modern society has become so fast paced and reliant upon technology, it is nearly impossible to function without it. For someone who predates laptops and smartphones, navigating even the simplest of maneuvers can be intimidating. Using these devices is so intuitive for the younger generations, they see the struggles of elders to adapt as comedic. They don't recognize it as the social impairment it has become. Some elders learn how to cope, while many simply alter their activities to minimize the need to publicly expose their lack of gadget sophistication. Unfortunately, this technology deficiency makes the elder population more vulnerable to scams and exploitations, and many are lured into traps which relieve them of their retirement nest eggs. Not wanting to expose their weaknesses, many fail to ask for help, either before or after they've been taken advantage of by some online grifter. The generational difference regarding dependence on technology contributes to an older person's inability to relate to the younger members of their family and their community. The tendency to stereotype seniors who are not technically savvy does not help, and it only adds to their insecurities. Withdrawal is a protective reaction to remove these uncomfortable encounters by avoiding them whenever possible, leading to further isolation. It is possible to forecast that as younger adult groups begin to cycle through the aging process, that the technological divide between generations will further complicate the integrity of the family unit. Younger people already experience diminished social skills due to their focus on handheld devices. Family activities no longer center around personal interactions, and the bond that once created fails to form. The purpose of a family has become that of an incubator, and once the children leave the nest, they willingly shed these attachments in favor of creating independence. Our youth and young adults live in a world where you can order anything from your phone and have it delivered to your door. The ease for instant gratification that permeates this technologically dependent culture will translate into them finding the easiest and quickest fix for the problem of having parents who are losing the ability to take care of themselves. Soon, the consideration to return home and take care of aging family members will just disappear. Medical advancements are a major reason so many adults are living longer. It's aided in extending the quality of life for many of these people far beyond that of their parents and their grandparents. It's not yet eliminated some of the dread diseases that accompany the physical decline, which robs someone of their ability to function independently. Our society has responded to this increasingly large population of diminished seniors with an explosion in home care and nursing homes. The children of baby boomers live in the beginning of what could be a series of transitional phases. They were raised with deeply rooted family values, but live their lives in a much different world, and they struggle with the implications of the detached choices they're often forced to make. In a generation or two, we'll start to see the decisions in how to handle the issue of aging seniors being made differently. The changes to the family unit will most likely reduce such choices to a financial or logistical solution. This dispassionate view will address the concerns of an aging population based on the requirements of society, not on the needs of affected individuals. It's probable that elderly individuals will continue to represent a significant portion of the population, and as long as they control an immense amount of wealth, they can wield influence on how their fate is decided. The interesting thing to note is that the younger generations who are currently influencing the establishment of a more institutional solution for senior care will one day become subject to the product of their own design. I wonder if their considerations will change once they're forced to live with the perspective from the other side.